Hello and welcome to another Wednesday night hangout. Thanks for joining us. I've got my friend Flo here.
Hello, hello.
And I hope you guys are having a wonderful Wednesday. What is today? The 14th of December. Not much left of this year. So, as always, I want to thank you all for joining me and see what you guys are working on tonight. So we'll say hello a little bit in the chat, and then we can talk about our topic tonight, which really was inspired by the fact that I've been somewhat obsessively playing Darktide. So, that may have informed tonight's stream a bit. But yeah, we'll go from there. So, War Budgies, hey. Thank you, by the way, for the sweet gift. War Budgies sent me this amazing, well, a couple of amazing things. Some garbage, what is the Watchtower?
Yeah, there you go.
some Watchtower issue source. I don't know. I just ignored that. But the Kodak Katachan from like 2000. Well, it looks older than that. But the copyright says 2000. So I've got a sweet classic relic for my old Katachans that I can frame up in the studio here at some point. So thank you, War Budgies, for this sweet gift. It was very thoughtful, and I appreciate it. Mandragora, thank you for joining us. Thomas Grable,
Now, does
welcome.
Minoth have watchtowers?
Well, yeah. Where else do they keep the flames? Watchtowers and racks, just throughout. Let's see here. So, yes, welcome, Thomas. Welcome, the Plunder Den. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, hello.
Paul, as always, thank you for being my moderator tonight. And Jay Alex, good to see you, man. Let's see, so is this paint night or game night? Because if it's a paint night, I need to freshen up the water. It's paint and chat night. As much as I wanted to play more Darktide, I was wrangled back into doing a more normal format show. But I have been playing Darktide most nights. In fact, I got one of those a new watch that tracks like your life, and I haven't been able to get a good sleep score. All I get like C grade sleep scores for the last week. Because I get home, it's like 9 o'clock at night, and then play till like midnight, and then get up, and it's just a mess.
The important thing is, what level are you?
I am level 28 out of 30 in Darktide, and I dang well am going to hit level 30 this week. So help me. And then I can work on my next character, which I believe will be an Ogren. So a nice skull breaker to break up the action. Anyway, we'll get back to that. 'Cause, oh my gosh, Darktide is so fun. Let's see here. So JP got rockets. Welcome, welcome. Greetings from the pocket dimension. Okay. War Budgies, I will plead with Minoth for your soul while I burn it. Let's see, the Plunder Den. Painting and basing up my armies for Adepticon. Yeah, I guess that's the next one to prepare for. I mean, we've got LVO happening before then, but Adepticon's the next, so LVO and Adepticon is the next major conventions coming up. We should probably make plans for that, huh?
Probably. Maybe.
Mandragora says, oh, cool. I have that supplement. I got it from a shop 10 to 15 years ago for $5. These days, that shop doesn't even discount old codices anymore, so that venue is off my list now. Really? Not even the old ones? JP got rockets. So we're playing War Machine at a local store in the before times, and the youngsters asked if it was a League of Legends tabletop game. #aesthetics.
I mean, I can see that for sure.
Man, I feel like they should lean into that.
Well, I feel like they have with their new style.
That's fair. Paul, I may create a Psyker on my next Darktide and see what the fuss is. I feel like you would do well with a Psyker. I'm even a little bit tempted on the Psyker thing, but you have to balance that.
And that's saying a
after
lot
me.
because Miranda hates mages.
I do. I hate mages so much. And one of my jobs as a veteran is to run around protecting stupid mages. So I'm just back to Warcraft again, basically. So, anyway. Jeff Rockwell, Darktide does look fun, but my old APC probably won't run it. Too much to my great sadness. It does have somewhat beefy system requirements. I believe you need a GTX 970 graphics card minimum, which means that it probably doesn't even run very well with that. So yeah, on the bright side, after the Bitcoin bust, graphics cards became affordable again. So, I mean, even the most top-of-the-line graphics card will cost you like $1,500, which is no joke for a component in your PC, but that's like the bleeding edge stuff. That was running like over $2,000, probably like $3,000 last year. I mean, it was ridiculous. So yes. And then I think you need a minimum 5i or an i5 core or whatever. So if your PC is more than like, I'm going to say 7 years old, it might be a little rough. Let's see. I used to get my Mark I War Machine books there too. The last ones I got were Mark II, but they didn't discount them past 20. So yeah, not worth the 2 to 3 hour long bus ride anymore. Oh gosh, especially when you have to travel that far. Oh yeah, and as Paul said, Dark Tide is working on optimizing. Right now there are some pretty significant load times and a little bit of weird glitchiness, but it's getting better. And like they do support their game, so I'm not assuming there's going to be like a pay for DLC to have a running version of the game or something like awful like that. Like they're good. Yeah, but think about how many toy soldiers 1,500 can buy. Well, it depends.
It depends what company.
Yeah, where are you getting them from?
Let's see, if you're buying solos at $35 to $40 a piece, then not that many.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What's up, nerds? Hey, SpezTech. Welcome, welcome. So, yeah, that's where you guys are at. Flo, what are you working on tonight?
So, I'm doing a little something different tonight. I have a couple of ornaments that I need to paint up for Christmas, so I'm painting those.
The Xmas is upon us. Ugh. On the bright side, my neighborhood looks really bright and cheery.
I noticed that it's very bright around your neighborhood.
They don't do like hardly like
Anything for Halloween.
For every like 10, well, I don't know, 20 houses you see, maybe one of them does stuff for Halloween. It's very disappointing.
Yeah, no, I was actually thinking that as I drove down the neighborhood. I was like, yeah, if only they'd do something like this for Halloween. It'd be a lot less lights.
We've still got our orange lights up in defiance. And by defiance, I mean laziness. Yes, anyway. So
and
your
little pumpkin couple in your
yes, the little
window.
pumpkin. I think they're adorable. I can't quite reach them right now because there's too much stuff in my house.
Oh
Anyway.
man, Mandragora just pointed out that Raging Heroes has ornament STLs. Is that a thing?
Slow painting Raging Heroes ornament. Have you heard of this?
I have not, but I also have no computer access right now, so.
Well, that's interesting.
Flo's apartments burned down her computer.
Yeah,
Her
there was a
apartments
whole-
didn't burn down. Just the
Barely
electric
not.
grid burned down the computer.
Yeah.
It's just, most of the electronics on that side of the house.
Was it the neutral wire? Like got melded with the hot?
Yep.
Yeah. So electricity just kind of started getting real wiggy. Let's
Putting
see.
out double its output.
I buy mine at work. We sell used stuff for super cheap, and I already get a discount. Oh, well, then yeah, you can get pretty far with that. Well, I guess you could do used graphics cards by that logic too. At that price, I could
I
get.
thought that's what he's talking about.
He was saying how many minis you could get for that.
Ah.
At that price, I could get 2 Porphyrions, or a really good 3D printer, a pirate pattern, and 1,000 left over. True fact. So no, Flo is not painting the Raging Heroes ornaments, unfortunately.
So are Porphyrians really that good, or they just look really cool?
Good question. War Budgie stands with us in our laziness.
Hashtag
all
Halloween
year.
all year.
Hey, Sammy. Checking in. You anyone catch the new Willow series yet? So far, I'm liking it. Different than what I thought, but a good watch. I haven't watched any of the new series. I haven't seen House of Dragons. I haven't seen The Lord of the Rings. I haven't seen Willow. I haven't even got my new season. I haven't even watched the new season of Cobra Kai, and I
Me
know
neither.
I like that show. This is just TV is really hard for me. But you know what we did see last night? We watched
Yes.
Conan again. It was playing in theaters as one of those Fathom events. We were looking at the stuff in the theaters for our normal Tuesday night movie-going experience, and we're like, I don't know, this looks boring, we already saw it. Oh, Conan, 40th anniversary. Okay. So that was fun. And they actually showed like fun deleted scenes at the end of the movie, which was interesting because the audience we were hanging out with were very opinionated. And yeah, chimed in a lot. It was fun though.
It was great. It looked great on the big screen.
It's nice to watch, you know.
Film grain was nice and huge.
The sound was the most jarring part of it, really. But loose neutral, yes. As an electrician, non-hobby times, yes. It was bad. And the outlet that loose neutral was in wasn't even the one acting up. It was other outlets
It
along
took out
the circuit.
half of our apartment.
And like things that weren't even on, but probably had some sort of phantom power going, were just getting fried.
Yep.
So-
So like our air purifier was plugged into the wall, not on, just plugged in, and it started smoking. It's one of the things that completely busted. The only thing that saved like any of our electronics is that a lot of them were in surge protectors, and all the surge protectors fried, but it saved all of those electronics.
Yeah, that's a lot cheaper. A lot, like,
Yeah, we need to go ahead and order our APCs soon.
good point. Mandragora, oh, they suck. 40K is a rule where the more things cost, the worse they are because of how glass-jawed they are versus the points. So, sucks to have Titans, I guess?
Okay, I wonder. They didn't look like they were that great. And so I just kept wondering, like, maybe I don't understand them.
So
But they
you-
look super cool.
Yeah. No, they're beautiful models. But you know what else is a beautiful model? The new Rogel Dorn. Can't wait for that to come out. Maybe happy birthday to me. Let's see. So you know what's best in life? I do.
Rogeldorns.
Rogel Dorns.
Those are best.
Jay, Alex, I need to go visit my parents to watch Willow. They have Disney Plus and I don't. Yeah, we have access to Disney
But
Plus.
do you know
but-
the riddle of steel?
Don't think I do, because honestly, I don't think it was explained in the movie. So you're like, what? Oh, it's reliable? But, you know,
I don't know.
Darth Vader disagreed with that.
Yeah, I think I agree with him more.
Yeah. That's fun. And did you hear the lamentations of the women folk? Of the women? I was impressed at the both diverse cast and strong female characters within that story from 1981. So
But
nice.
that's never happened
That's
before.
never happened before. The air purifier started smoking. Sorry for laughing, Flo, but the irony is killing me.
Really, yeah.
Just couldn't handle the stress anymore, so just took that up. JB got rockets, which is stronger? Steel or the hand that wields the steel? Oh, the metal of man has always been been what's shaped the world.
So I agree with James Earl Jones. It's the hand.
The hand, the mighty hand, the flesh. Oh yeah, speaking of new, Miranda, I got promo for the new Circle Savings Pack. It's a chance of getting a lot of war beasts I'm missing with Chromac 2. Hey, Shell, welcome. So collecting a lot more of them Circle beasts, eh? Let's see, get a Thorn Blood Pack with it for almost the cost of a lone Thorn Blood Pack. And it only has one Warp Wolf with it. But then it has a negative, the new Legacy Theme Force rules. I am concerned. Have you guys messed in the app at all? Like, I haven't even opened the app. Every time I opened it, it needed to download new stuff, and I just didn't mess with it for a while, and then I got busy, and now I'm playing Dark Tide, and I'm distracted. But I don't know. Have you guys been messing around with the new War Room, the War Machine app, List Builder, and all that stuff? Hey, Nathaniel, welcome, welcome. But anyway, what were we talking about tonight? Video games. Dark Tide's amazing, if you haven't played it. If you
We're
have
not
the
just
system.
talking about video games.
Whatever. We're talking about how video games help tabletop games. And I think Games Workshop makes a fantastic example of how that is true. And given the strong aesthetics of other types of tabletop games, I am hoping that those other game companies will maybe follow suit. Because, I mean, it doesn't even necessarily matter what genre of game you make, which I think GW kind of proved by unleashing their IP license to anyone and everyone and letting all of these amazing games crop up, like Vermintide, like Darktide, like Space Marine, like Warhammer, Total War Warhammer.
Total Warhammer.
Total Warhammer.
Total Warhammer.
And it's how people found out about that world at all. Because tabletop gaming is analog, and you kind of have to find out about it by usually going into a physical store. I mean, you can find out stuff about it online, but usually when you know to look it up, or if you happen to see something in a movie maybe, but even that's like pretty rare. But video games are...
You know, just some chats with Henry Cavill.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. Like, Hollywood learned what Warhammer was for the first time, unless you were Vin Diesel or Robin Williams or whoever. But yes, Henry Cavill plays 40K. So then, like, 4 billion women suddenly learned what Warhammer was. So we can thank him for that. Yeah. So as a format, I guess, it seems to be really strong, possibly stronger than movies, because the video game industry is larger than the movie industry now. Like, crazy.
Well, and it's almost entirely based on repetition, and so like it's drives the intellectual property into people's brains harder, I think.
Yes, and you can do so much with aesthetics, and make every type of game ever. And then just I mean, there was that whole spate of mobile games that GW put out too, and you're like, what even is this? But you remember, oh, Games Workshop. A lot of people anymore are at least like, oh, that's kind of familiar. I think I've heard of that. Warhammer, yeah, that sounds right. I mean, who else gets that? Who else is like, oh yeah, Malifaux, I'm pretty sure I've heard of that. Like, it's a perfectly cool IP, great aesthetic, fun gameplay, but it just doesn't have like that reach, right?
As far as like the cultural footprint, at least in people's minds, I think Warhammer's about where D&D was 20 years ago.
Well, yeah, and then D&D is just straight up mainstream, which they had video games, they had cartoons, movies. They have a new one coming out next year.
Hey, the new one
looks fun.
Possibly
The
promising.
new one looks great. Let's see, War Budgies. The app looks good so far, better than the previous one. Good evening, morning, night. Night here. Gets dark pretty dang early now. War Machine is dead. Long live War Machine. I mean, it's not. It's just maybe hibernating. Let's see. Darktide looks so good. It makes me want to not buy a new Chaos Knight. I am missing and get that for myself as a Christmas gift instead. It is super fun. Hours and hours of gameplay. You don't have to paint anything or assemble anything unless you have to assemble a new computer to play it. Pretty worth it, I think. JP got rockets. Lots of 40K players got into it after Dawn of War. Exactly. Dawn of War was huge. Space Marine was huge. Also, video games really do make the difference. I did not care about 40K until I played Dawn of War 1. Still a classic. Shale, I have built a few forces. Still waiting for legacy stuff to show up. Like in the app. Paul, Darktide's a ton of fun, but best in co-op, private games, and solo with bots coming soon. Yeah, so if you are playing Darktide, you are sort of stuck with the unfettered masses, if you will. Like, you're just out with other players all the time. You can put together strike teams, which is just where you group up with your own friends. So they will always be with you going into new missions, which is great. But like in Vermintide, you could just have private games, and you could play on your own and have semi-intelligent bots that followed you around and got you through the mission. In this case, they don't have that part set up yet, so you're just always playing with other people, which I will say I've played more than 50 missions so far, because I just got the achievement for that. For the most part, people are pretty nice. Although it did surprise me because there is the voice chat in the game that I didn't even realize was a thing. So someone just started talking, and I'm like looking around like, what happened?
You're like, which voice actor was that?
Right? Like, this doesn't sound right. But he was like super nice, so it's fine. But yeah, so people are pretty okay. I've been sticking with like the level 2 difficulty missions because level 3 is like quite a jump. And I've gone through a few of those, but that's where people get a little more testy. So I'm like, it's fine. Yeah. Shadow of the Hornet Rat came with, Shadow of the Horned Rat came with a free mini.
I kind of like the hornet rat. Sounds like a new D&D creature.
A hornet rat?
Yeah.
That sounds horrible. Jeff Rockwell, I'm pretty sure GW's video games are the reason they're doing Old World. Between Vermintide, Mordheim, and Total War Warhammer, people want to play in the Old World, but... Is that further down? Well, yeah, so you're stuck with like Age of Sigmar if you actually wanted to play in the tabletop world, is what you're saying. No.
Well, I think he's saying, but the old world doesn't exist anymore.
Well, as a physical, like in GW,
Yeah.
but it does exist in
They can
video
play
games.
Age of Sigmar, which is
Yeah.
nothing like the Warhammer
it's
world.
not. Although, I don't know, Age of Sigmar has been calling to me a little bit lately. I mean, I can always put it off because I'm like, I am never going to paint this stuff. When the hell am I going to get around to that? Like, I've got piles of catachans I gotta like deal with. So there's that, but man, those minis are pretty. And the Dana and Jason and Chris, his videographer, were all playing at Valhalla, and it looked fun. So they're showing off some Age of Sigmar, but yeah. So if you want to get in some old world fix, then you're basically looking at the video games, or you could just find some friends that are still playing that version. Mandragora Tabletop cannot immerse you in the world the way a video game can. Nobody will pick up a codex with, sadly, 20 illustrations tops for the cost of a AAA title and get it. Is that true across the board? Like, it's mostly true. It's definitely what appeals to modern audiences more so. But there is something really nice about a tangible, like, physical book that you can have in your hand and carry around with you and look at without needing to worry about just having an electronic device that you're constantly dealing with that wants to distract you with everything else that's on it. Like, it's a little more focused.
I think you're right. I think it has its place, but I think that, like a video game, like I said, it's a lot of repetition. You know, you're just sort of in it for hours and hours, and so
Yeah, you think of like
you
the
just start to
Vermintide
see
levels.
like, you know, you can almost read that like little script that you that they have in the Warhammer world. Like, it's just stuff that you just get really used to.
So on all the Darktide load screens, especially since the load screens are pretty long, they just have little litanies of like, you know, free thought is heresy, and you know, duty only ends in death, and you know, all the typical 40K stuff. But so you're just like hitting spacebar to go through them, and it's a funny bit of repetition that's really helps to immerse you, make you think of that world. YouTube makes minigames more accessible and understandable. Yes, Mini Wargaming has done a lot to make that world more popular and like make more people aware of it at all. Because definitely felt like more of a secret club before. Not by design, but just inadvertently, because, you know, it's a nerd thing, so, you know, by definition, it's a small group of people that enjoy it. So yeah, getting to see it more online has definitely probably helped broaden the audience. It's been a super boon to GW. More budget. I think Dawn of War did more to sell me on Warhammer than Warhammer did. Fair. 40K has a whole set of YouTubers who make money off it. Yes. JP Got Rockets. Henry Cavill is responsible for opening up a new player base. We've said for years, how do we get more women into the hobby? Superman was never an option before, dude. Like, single-handedly, he has probably done more to get women into the hobby.
It's fun watching him explain what it is on like
know.
interview shows. When
Yeah.
somebody will ask him like, "Oh, what do you do?" and he's like, "Warhammer," and then the other three people sitting around him are like, "What are you talking about?" And he starts trying to explain it, and they're like, "Yeah, but what are you talking about?"
No, there's usually one person who's just like, that sounds really fun. And everyone else does the typical like eyes glaze over and they're like, uh-huh. Which I'm so used to, right? Like, so yeah, bless his heart. He's trying. Mandragora, before Dawn of War, orcs were just bad imitations of Warcraft orcs to me. Now I appreciate their unique culture and traits. Fun fact about that, because Warcraft was licensed by GW to do an actual GW game. It fell through, and I think GW pulled out, but Blizzard had already developed so much of it, and so they're like, orcs versus humans? That's not copywritten. And it's not like GW didn't copy a bunch of shit anyway. So they just made their world. And
Warcraft
now orcs have a whole
actually,
different... based on GWIP, which is based on, Lord of the Rings.
Although the GW lore is probably the most unique, in that the orcs are just fungus. Just asexual fungus.
No, their lore is great. In fact, when I read the Catachan Devil book earlier this year, it was the new Catachan book that came out. Like, just following the orc characters is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun to read about the orcs and their ridiculous culture. And they're just cartoons, right? They're dumb, but they're not, but they're clever. They're dumb, but clever. And they're incredibly resilient and scary and super strong and really violent, but then like childish. Like, it's a really, really unique mix.
Oh man, what's that game that's coming out? Speaking of video games, it's like the ultimate orc game.
Was that the Blood Teeth and whatever?
And Bolters or something like that?
Yeah. Oh, I'll find it.
You should find a trailer for it.
Oh, okay. I've been tasked with this.
And share it with the audience if they haven't seen it.
Shoota's Blood and Teeth on Steam. So, see if I can somehow make this work. And yeah, I mean, it is an incredibly interesting world that they have made. And then we could talk about the other YouTube video we were kind of looking at. I guess it's that. Stop it. Okay. Maybe I can make this work.
Mayhaps.
I know. I wasn't prepared to do this, so I'm going to have to like awkwardly throw this in here. Bear with me. Windows Capture, YouTube. And let me make that something. Add. No. And it's going to be you. And we'll just shrink you in. No reason to have all that there. No reason to have all that there. Stop that. Oh, gosh. I love OBS, but it's also a little awkward.
Relationship.
It's just kind of awkward. All right, so check out this game. And tell me it's not like a love letter to everything orc. And hopefully you have sound. Go!
I'm not sure what this is. This isn't the gameplay. This is like a cutscene or something.
Oh, yeah, it is. Well, this is the graphics. This is literally the first thing I grabbed off YouTube.
You should find the trailer.
Okay. It'd be really nice if this thing did what I wanted. There we go. Gameplay. Thank you, Galley. And that's like a whole cutscene. Oh, really? So if you've ever played Worms, it reminds you of Worms.
Well, what is it? Blood, guts, bullets, and cannoli, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's
it's
the
other
company
one
that did
was
that.
on. Yeah. So it's quite fun. So yes, there's that. Anyway, that game, super cute looking. I don't even know when I'd play it, but I'm probably gonna buy it, right? So anyway, there's that. Don't lose it. Oh, too many things to click on. Let's see. Got rockets before Dawn of War. Dawn of War 1 was very helpful with figuring out color schemes. The game had an in-game paint tool. Spent hours using it to create my homebrew chapter color scheme. Oh wow, that's fun. Sort of like a paper doll for your Space Marines.
For your plastic dolls.
Exactly. Grey Knight's demon game coming out soon. Oh my. Or playing a dead game, like I do. Anyone else playing Fire Warrior back in the day? Or play Fire Warrior back in the day? Did you?
No, I don't think I've ever played a Tau game.
Awesome miniature painting as always. The detail on those blue floating straps looks so good. Yeah, these are Necrons that well, no,
Oh,
these are
Tommy
Necrons that
painted
Tommy
those.
painted. That's right. My
Yeah, those are mine.
disembodied voice painted those. I love that game. They made Space Marine the bad guys. It was a bold move. But it works, right? And that was sort of the big thing. Before we started tonight's stream, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the YouTube channel Extra Credits, but they go over a lot of game development, you know, the whole game development series. They talk about the philosophy of game design, the actual practicality stuff, the marketing. And they did a couple of videos that specifically addressed Games Workshop and their broad licensing structure. The first video came out like 6 years ago, and then they did a follow-up one 5 years ago, so a year after, and found that GW's shotgun approach to licensing, in short, was very, very successful. In addition to selling off like the entire Warhammer universe for big games like Warhammer, Total Warhammer. I'm just gonna get it wrong apparently. And Dawn of War. Then they did all the sub-licensing, so you had games about just orcs, you had games about just certain chapters, and you had stuff like Vermintide, which was a limited license, and even Darktide, to an extent, it's fairly broad, but also somewhat limited. So the idea was that they sold it off to so many different companies that even though they weren't all going to be winners, enough of them were that it really did a lot to bring public consciousness to the game and drive back sales to their tabletop game.
Well, I would say more so to the intellectual property, right? Because they're making money off the video games too, right?
They are.
And so
They are.
it's to the point now with like the Black Library and video games and the tabletop game that it really should be looked at more as an intellectual property than a game, right?
I mean, that's true. It's certainly Games Workshop's biggest claim to fame is, I'm pretty sure 40K is larger than Age of Sigmar ever
It's gotta
will
be.
be. Yeah. And it's like they're all kind of connected worlds, and you've got like 30K and whatever. But yeah, that world, that IP has become so valuable because video games have helped to fuel so much, again, awareness of the brand, and then that can drive you to the tabletop game, to the Black Library, to other video games. I mean, there's people who know about Warhammer that only ever play video games.
Yeah, I've met quite a few people that have never played the tabletop game or even bought a model. They just play video games, and a lot of them play video games and read the novels. Like they do everything except play the tabletop game.
Yeah, so it supplements it in a lot of ways. And one of the interesting things in the extra credits video that they mentioned, and this was like 6 years ago, is that GW was in a financial slump when they were doing this. So then following up a year later, GW was in a much better financial position as the result, at least in part, to licensing out all of those games. And they did like their sub-licensing and all of that so that you could break off little pieces of the IP so that the game companies were not competing with each other while they developed parts of the IP in their own game. So it was a really good strategy that honestly I would love to see like other games take advantage of because it makes sense.
Yeah, I'd really like to see a Malifaux video game of some sort. I bet that would be really cool.
Be a gunslinger game.
Well, Tommy mentioned it could be a JRPG. Like, I feel like Malifaux could do that just fine. It'd be weird, but it's a weird game, and so like you just
literally.
Yeah. So you just lean into that aesthetic and kind of like that weird world, and yeah, I mean you're gonna have all kinds of people who are gonna be into that. You can do all kinds of video games. Like it doesn't even need to be genre specific. It doesn't have to be a fighter game. It doesn't have to be a turn-based strategy game. It can just be, You know, we had that stupid shooter game with the orcs we were just showing a minute ago. That's not 40K plays, despite how some people describe it. It's fun though, and it makes that world, and you connect that to the idea of being fun. It shouldn't be hard.
Well, even simple things, right? Like
Shouldn't.
in Space Marine, they have the fairly quintessential sound, and so now it's in your head. It's like, nope, I know what a bolter sounds like. Mm-hmm. Just when you roll the dice, you're just like, no, I know. I can imagine what's happening right now, you know?
Yeah. Well, the sound, the music, I mean, some of those games, when I did the 40K Mechanicus review, that music is so beautiful. And you get the Darktide Deluxe Edition. It comes with the soundtrack, and the music on that game is phenomenal. And the voice acting is so good. And all of that really draws you in to just enjoying the world. Even though it's dark and gritty and you're expendable and everything's harsh and horrible and you're sent into like the dregs of society to just like on basically suicide missions all the time. Like by rights, it's not really like, there's not a quality of life sale to this, but it's so fun.
Well, it's like those memes that they have going around that are like, you know, I want to be a wizard like Harry Potter. I want to be an elf in Lord of the Rings. 40K fans. Nah, I'm okay.
I don't want to be any of these things, but I enjoy playing them.
And that actually helps feed it a lot too, because in Darktide you have the 4 classes, and the Psychers are just referred to as witches, and the other classes don't really care for them. They're like, here's a man, a witch. Like they work together, but they don't like each other. Because there's this stigma to being a witch. You're like you're connected to the warp, which is fundamentally heresy. And so it's a very like gray area. Like
heresy is only relative to how useful you are.
That's 100% true. Warp use sanctioned. Let's see. Mandragora. Regarding game versus codex, well, no. Considering going through just 5 seconds of Darktide or Space Marine and staying in one spot and looking around. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Tabletop is more tangible and sociable, but with video games, you don't need to arrange an opponent or venue to play at. That's true. I would say the quality of gameplay, with some exceptions, is generally going to be better in a game store experience because there's an in-person social contract. It's a healthier interaction generally. And you know, you're either meeting up with friends or you make new friends or whatever, and you have stuff to talk about during the game, and after the mission is over, after the game's completed, that person's still there. They haven't blipped off to another mission, so yeah, it's like a healthier interaction. But I mean, that's
and they don't run off and leave you wondering where they went.
That's mid-mission. That's another frustrating thing. Okay, so that's not a problem I have with Darktide. That's a problem I have with like crackhead players. So that's all I can say. Let's see. Video games are great for filling the time between tabletop games. Yes, but they can also be a distraction from it, right? Like, it's so easy to just be like, just throw in some Dawn of War. I'll just play some video game. I've got this thing over here to assemble and clean up and base and prime and paint and finish. Or I can just do this. So there's definitely that aspect. But, you know, what you do with your spare time or your free time, it's like there's different ways you can enjoy it. And sometimes you want to just have that quiet focus moment. And sometimes you just want to wonder where all those crackhead co-players of yours went off to while you're getting attacked by a mutant. You know, it's really exciting. Mandragora. You can't get a sense of scale from the codex. You can read Hive World, but only think about bees or wasps or something. And it isn't until you get into the gantry and look around that you get it. Okay, yeah. I mean, running around Darktide, you're in a Hive World, right, of Atoma Prime, and it's massive.
I've only seen you go outdoors once. Is it just that one level
That
where you
desert
go stand
level?
outside? Yeah.
There's a couple of ones where you're outside and you're in like this big factorium kind of area. There's a bunch of metal walkways you're running around on, but it is outdoors. So yeah,
okay.
there's some of that.
I hadn't
but
seen those yet, I guess.
It does feel very claustrophobic even though you're outdoors. So yes, I agree with you. Sometimes paintings and like really good artwork can give you a bit of that sense of scale too. You're never gonna see that represented on a tabletop. You just, how you even do that? So that's fair. At some point you've gotta go with it. If I recall correctly, the box art for Warcraft was done by Brian Nelson, or at least had his style of orc on it. That may be. That I don't know. You have to change your name to Video Game Girl.
Technically, video games can be war games.
It's true. Maybe if I just stick with the war games. I do like my RTSs. Wargaming Kim. Hey, what's happening with War Machine? I was thinking about getting back into it, but now there's Mark IV and there isn't much about it. Are cricks still a thing? I'm confused. Yes, cricks are a thing. If you're thinking about getting back into it, so you probably have models. Yeah, so basically what they did is they announced Mark IV, which will be releasing officially in January, I think, unless that got pushed back. I know some other stuff got pushed back. They are basically making every model you had prior to their new releases starting in like August legacy models, and a few of those will carry into the new game and the new rule set, and then the majority of them are going to stay in an old legacy rule set where they're not going to bother balancing it or selling those models anymore, I believe. So, and that's not to say down the line they might not pluck other models out of there to put into the new edition, but that's kind of what's happening. In fact, if you go on their website, they have sales on the legacy kits, so you can have a whole like Crix army that will be carrying, that's supposed to be carrying over into the new game, and you can get that pretty inexpensively. So yes, the rule set is totally available for free, and they have the War Machine app, so you can download that and take a look at it and see if you like it. I mean, the big thing that's going to be make or break for it is if people are going to be playing in game stores and if there's local meta support. So if you find someone around you who's interested in playing it, then yeah, give it a go. Reddit has been very active on its opinions about the new Mark IV rule set. There does seem to be a bit of a controversy around the unit movement and how gamey that can be, because they fundamentally changed that. A lot of the rules aren't super different, but stuff is different enough that you do need to know about it. Like arc facings are completely gone. Unit movement is fundamentally different, and there's a style mode of gameplay that makes it harder to assassinate your caster outright. So they're doing a little bit to give the game a little bit more robust gameplay. So we'll see how that goes. And yes, Crix is still a thing. They jumped like, I honestly can't get a straight answer on it. I think it's like 18 years in the future or so. So the aesthetic is very different now because there's been developments in technology. And so there's a lot more like voltaic, like Signar is not really doing steam anymore. It's all like electricity magic. And most everyone else has moved to that too. So it's less steampunk now. Mandragora, yeah, Mark IV is really confusing and alarming me for that reason. Never mind all the new limited factions out of nowhere. Riot Quest made more sense than this. Still never played Riot Quest. Let's see. Crix is still a thing. Previous stuff is still playable. They just haven't done many new armies yet. So, yes. And the new armies are all, they're doing the whole 3D print. They're doing end user 3D prints. So they sell the 3D prints to the end player. And they're all built in with magnets, which are pretty cool. Like that layout's really good. But yeah, they're doing a bunch of limited faction stuff. So instead of playing Crix, you play the pirates portion of the Crix. Like they're all limited factions under the heading of Crix. And each one of those limited armies are just being called armies. So that's the big thing to remember there is, so like if you go online and you buy a new Crix set, it's going to be one of those armies that will move forward into Mark IV, and they'll sell more armies, even though they're all Crix. And those armies can't commingle. So, you know, think of it like, I mean, I brought up like Space Marine chapters before, but I think there's probably a better comparison on that. Yeah. Paul, Shoot Us Blood and Teeth was made by the same devs as Guns, Gore, and Cannoli. Love that game. Yeah, I mean, it'll be great.
That's what it is. I was confusing it with a movie, I think. It was Blood, Guts, Bullets, and Octane. It's like an old indie film.
Oh, okay then. Let's see, Mary Gentile wrote a fun book called Grunts about orcs finding a trove of firearms. An amazing fun read. I love that book. It was hilarious and vulgar and violent and amazing. All right. Oh, Shooters, Blood, and Teeth is also 2-player. Well, all right then. That does look fun. It reminds me of the old Sega Genesis games where you play with the 2 players running around just shooting everything and everywhere, and such good times. Let's see. I used to follow them for 15 plus years ago, but they took up some political stances and I bailed. Picked up who? Let's see, you ever play Mark of Chaos, OG Warhammer Fantasy RTS, and Army Builder? No. Those are before my time in that world. Like, the video games I grew up playing, I was like all in on Zelda, 100%.
Yes.
And then I played a few of the JRPGs, like I was a big old fan of Grandia and Xenosaga.
Warhammer Fantasy RTS. I never played that. I have played Shadow of the Horned Rat.
Okay.
And then there was another one. It's like the next version of it, and I can't remember what that was now. I'm blanking on it, but yeah, those were fun.
Jeff, pretty much only consumption of 40K is through video games these days. I love the world and the lore and the stuff. The game just stopped being fun for me. Well, I mean, there's a few aspects of that, right? One, it can stop being fun because it's whatever reason it is. Like, you don't like the new models, you don't like the way the gameplay is, your meta collapse, you live too rurally, whatever. Then there's also the, physical medium is both a blessing and a curse. Because as nice as it is to have it, well, then you have it. And a video game is very, easy to transport because, I mean, especially on Steam, you're like, I don't know, I just install it wherever and play that on my one computer that has 400 other games I own. It's not like this closet I've got filled or this other room I've got filled with all my miniatures and like this hobby. And so it probably is a little bit more tidy to keep as a video game world. Even though, you'd still appreciate, presumably, seeing the game get played at a game store. JP got rockets. Let's see. So we're not going to address War Machine Tactics? Yeah, we could probably talk about War Machine Tactics. So that was a Kickstarter video game for War Machine. And it's a bit of a tragedy because it has so much potential, but there's obviously a lot of changes that happened that weren't really talked about. Because you could still find that really old video game trailer that just looks completely different, has this cool, dubstep when that was still kind of new.
Yeah.
Really cool graphics of just you sending armies off to fight.
Well, it looks like you're a warcaster and you've got your robots with you and you're just running around freeform. It's not turn-based or anything.
It did seem a lot more
It seemed like you're just
yeah.
running around, and that seemed super fun.
Yeah. So War Machine Tactics was launched. It was a huge Kickstarter that was very, very successful because, the Iron Kingdom's IP at least was, and probably still is, really very attractive for the player base. And it's a really cool aesthetic. It's one of the best versions and renditions of steampunk. And so, of course, there would be an audience that would want to play a video game set in that world. But, it was a fairly independent game company, and it was very, very ambitious. And the game is really pretty, and they've done a lot to fix it. But when it first launched, it was very clunky and glitchy and crashed a lot for people, and it was a very frustrating experience for the player base. So even though they fixed that 2 years down the line to really kind of get a lot of the bugs worked out, and even came out with a DLC, it really left a bad taste in the mouth of a lot of players for it, who probably just never went back to it.
Well, I feel like they did a weird middle of the road with it, where it wasn't quite it's almost a tabletop simulator of War Machine, right? You kind of play it almost the same way. You almost play it, turn-based, almost play it like your tabletop, but it's always almost. And so it's still not the game, but it was so close to it that it felt like you're just fiddling with a lot of little controls, a lot of little options, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it would have been probably better as an RTS or better as a straightforward, you're just playing War Machine, but in a computer. If you'd have gone one way or the other, it would have probably been a lot more successful.
Yeah.
But it kind
Like
of
it
had this
suffered
weird
from-
middling sort of area.
Yeah, because you had to like list build, and you know, you played like 40K Mechanicus. It's a very similar layout, the whole XCOM style of, okay, you move your models here and do that, and it can work, but it really didn't for that particular video game. And
Which
so
is too bad. The artwork did exactly the way
The
like
art
they
was
were describing. Whereas you
Beautiful.
go in it and you're like, oh, okay, this feels like the Iron Kingdoms. This is the world you're in. Like, that stuff did great.
no,
like,
it
I
had
really
a lot
wish-
of positive aspects.
Yeah, if like it was the gameplay is a little more compelling to get people into it, then of course I would just want to be able to free form run around in the world. So
I
that
would
would have
have
been
loved.
even further.
I would have loved a Marvel vs. Capcom style fighter game of just the Warcasters. Frankly, like that would have been amazing. It's like you have your feet once per round. You're just running around kicking and punching each other and throwing spells at each other. Like, I don't know. I think that would have been amazing. But
That also would have been amazing, I think.
you could have done, I mean, that's the thing. You can do a lot of things because you have a whole world. And so then you take like an aspect or a genre of something you like and then put that aesthetic on it and can
Or
make it
you
work.
just, I mean, and that is the Games Workshop thing that they had done 5 years ago is like,
Yeah.
you know, at the height of Mark II, when Privateer, you know, had a very, very successful IP on their hands, honestly, they should have just licensed 5 different kinds of video games. You know what I mean? Like, just gone out and just let it go, you know?
Yeah. So it's, yeah. And so I hope that it's something that's, you know, something they try again. Maybe just something a little bit more small scale, or just like you said, break it out to 5 different companies and see what works. Because the IP itself, the aesthetic in that world is rich enough to support video games easily. It's just a matter of like, just try again, you know?
I mean, honestly, that, what is it? Bullets and Teeth. What is it? Blood, Bullets, and Teeth. Like,
Yeah.
just, I would like to play a Croak. Just play an Iron Kingdoms Croak,
Just a Croak
running
running
around
around the
doing
world.
crazy stuff. Have swimming levels and like I would just
like a
silly
platformer?
No, just side scroller, you know, just like that. Why
okay.
not?
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I mean, Steam has, the video games that are coming out now have more than proven that people have plenty of appetite for 16-bit style games, side scroller games, like all those
Yeah,
retro
like a
games that
cheap
we
little
had in
game,
the
you
90s.
know?
Absolutely. There's no
It's like,
reason.
Like a
not to.
$1.99 game that you can beat in like 3 hours, you know? Like,
But it's
just
very
do that.
satisfying. And you're like, oh, I really enjoyed that. And now I associate this IP with a positive experience. Exactly. NAFML GW is handing out licenses only sparingly to video game studios because Tim Kirby, then CEO in the 90s, thought video games were a fad and refused to jump the bandwagon.
Oh, that's interesting. Saying how, because the, what was it, 5 years ago is when GW was really spitting them out, but in the 90s, yeah, I remember Space Hulk being out on the PlayStation and PC,
Yeah.
and
Oh, Space
like,
Hulk, interesting.
one of the other, yeah. Yeah, the Space Hulk video game is interesting.
Man, those are words you eat. What was who was the studio head that was like putting the kibosh on Deadpool forever?
Oh, Tom
Roth?
Rothman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, just like, man, you made the wrong call, you know? Like,
Oh, yeah.
just like that situation again. Mandragora, it's the exact same. And you guys talking about that. Let's see, Jeff. War Machine Tactics could have been so much better. I backed it on Kickstarter, and well, the story was enjoyable enough. Yeah, it's fine. You get to follow Little Alice and Jakes and on all of that. You don't get to kill the butcher, which was very disappointing. Yeah, it really just needed a lot more polishing, and I don't mean polishing graphics-wise, because they were on it there, and the voice acting was quite good. It needed like faster missions, and I don't know. There's just certain things that you know, if you went over it again, you could probably like really make it a nice game. And if it were a game like in its current rendition, had that been the release of the Kickstarter version at the beginning, would have been much better received. I don't think it would have been like game of the year and people would have gone crazy on it, but it definitely would have been more positive. It's just the number of headaches that so many players had to deal with really probably just demoralized the whole situation. And it's like, it sucks. So yeah. Flo, will you paint a Goth Rocker mini?
Do we have a Goth Rocker mini?
I know that we do. You know, and they had that at the GW store, but we didn't get one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We don't
If
have
one ends up in my hands, then yes.
YouTube Underground, LOL, still waiting for a good game using the Iron Kingdom's IP. Maybe go back to their roots and make an RPG. Yeah, there you go. You could have the Witchfire story told in an RPG. You could do a point-and-click adventure game. Just put really pretty artwork. Turns out they have that. Like, it seems like there are so many options. Make the War Machine version of Myst. I don't care. It's got to be more successful. Just put them out there.
No, it's the Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. What was the Leia Lee's spy?
The Leia Lee's, Ashlyn D'Elise?
Yeah, Where in the
No,
World.
not Ashlyn. Anastasia Debray.
Yeah. See, you'd have where in the World is Anastasia Debray. You could have a similar like style game.
That would be fun too. I mean, yeah. The next game on Steam I want is Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun. It's basically a Space Marine FPS and 90s Doom Quake style.
I dig the commercial they have for that game. It's pretty fun.
Bolt Gun?
Yeah.
Have I seen it?
And I hope that it. Well, it's the one. It's like this old, nostalgic one where the guy's taking his Ultramarines out of the box from when he was a kid, and then he takes out this. And it's like a 3.5-inch floppy disk, and it has all this like graffiti all over it. This like Games Workshop graffiti.
Wow. Oh
It's like I hope the whole game fits on a 3.5-inch floppy. The whole thing's 1.44 meg.
That would be something. For sure. I think that was the gambit behind the 5th edition Requiem setting they did. Yeah, I mean, and Requiem in the 5th edition rule set makes sense, even though I quite enjoyed the 2d6 system. But it's a matter of making it like where everyone can play it. So yes, hopefully that does help to elevate the IP again. But I sure hope that nobody's burned out or like has an aversion to the idea of video games just because of like that one issue. Like, definitely is not worth throwing away the whole concept, exactly. Mandragora, I don't accept game makers, reviewers, or non-participant ancillaries. Yes, I agree. Telling me what to do as part of the community. Yeah.
I'm not sure which game they're talking about.
Yeah.
Let me know what game that is that you guys are talking about. By the way, I like the comment above that heresy makes him sick. I don't know if he's talking about a game or if just heresy in general
just heresy.
makes him sick.
Plunderden, I love video games, but I do love face-to-face interactions better. Well, most of the time. Well, right, it's just the same as like dealing with any face-to-face interaction. But, generally it's a pleasant experience because you both are coming together to play the same game that you presumably enjoy. And I mean, we've been to enough conventions. Like, the overwhelming majority of players are not jerks. There's just a few of them out there. And, like, that is what it is. But no one would play the game if that was really that common. And it isn't. So that's a super positive element of that. And gotta teach your kids to socialize, man. So, like, that's better than video games. The amount of trash talking that can happen in video games that was like learned, that kids are learning to do. The whole Apex Legends thing where kids were like...
That, and I mean, people will say stuff over the internet they would never say to someone's face.
Well, it's like when you see somebody mouthing off in their car or something to other people in traffic. It's like they've got that barrier of protection to prevent them, presumably, from getting any consequence of their action. And video games are just another step of that. So, yeah, you will generally have more polite experiences in person with another player. Let's see, the Darktide Throne side level is outside. That's the one with London Bridge. Yeah, oh, that one's... Have you seen it? It's so
No, I haven't seen that one
so
yet.
pretty. Oh my gosh, the levels of Dark Tide are so amazing. It's like, it's worth buying the super expensive graphics card just so you can play that really freaking gorgeous game. I mean, and Vermintide 2 did the same thing, like really immersive levels, and you're running around these cool forests and down these chasms, and it's just so overwhelming and immersive. And running around like the castle is really cool. And running around Morningstar, since you're in a ship, it's cool, but it's like you're not seeing out into the landscape distance or anything, but it's still so good.
Are you talking about the in-between mission place you are?
The Morningstar is the ship you're on. Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that a ship? That's not like an area that you're in?
You're on a ship, because the opening credits scene shows that ship entering into Atoma Prime.
Well, I knew the beginning was, but I didn't know that I guess you go back to the ship in between missions? That's what's
Yeah, so
happening?
you take shuttles down to different parts of the Hive City, because the Hive City is enormous. You're not going to just take a train.
I mean, there are trains.
There are trains, and you rob them sometimes. It's great.
I don't think that's a thing you do.
Yeah, it is actually. There's a mission.
Rob a train?
Well, okay, so
You
there's
go
ammo.
on and you take everyone's...
Well, no, there's heretics, so you just kill them, obviously, but you burglarize things after the fact because you need ammo, and the Imperium needs ammo, and you got to go get it.
So you're saying that in an armed robbery, if you just shoot everyone, it turns into a burglary? Because no one's there now?
I think that technically might be true, even though it's evil. Let's see. Anyway, on that weird note.
Hey, that's a 41st millennium conversation.
That is. I've been reading way too many of those litanies. Let's see. I have more fun in real life tabletop interactions versus games, to be sure. I just uninstalled Heroes of the Storm today. The random community is so toxic, I had to leave. Yeah, and I really enjoyed Heroes of the Storm for a long time. I thought it was way more fun than WoW for a while. Just because it was kind of easy to get into, it loaded up, characters are all fun, and they had their own little way you could build them up and whatever. But I haven't played that game in years.
I remember when you were playing that game.
Mm-hmm. It's just you run out of energy for it, and then and I don't know what it is about a game. Maybe it's just if too many people are playing, you get that everyone's a jackhole to each other online attitude.
Like if the player base gets too big?
Mm-hmm. Because on smaller games, you don't usually see that.
Like it's a friendlier community usually?
Mm-hmm.
I
think so. Because even in the tabletop community, like generally people associate jerk players with being 40K players. Not a lot of them with War Machine players.
I don't know if that was
But
quite...
people don't associate that with Malifaux players or Infinity players. Infinity players are like some of the nicest players. Like, as far as I can tell, they just have a reputation in the opposite direction. So...
I don't know. I feel like the War Machine community got a little...
It did.
Their
They had a
reputation got out ahead of the 40K players.
It did for a while. I remember being at Adepticon visiting the 40K room, and they're like, "Oh, you're a War Machine player? Like, you guys are all jerks." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry on behalf of..." No, I'm not. I don't represent them. But yeah, it's But what is it that makes that attitude come out? Let's see. Your friend David Mini Wargaming might disagree. 300,000 point battle seemed like peak scale was achieved. Pretty impressive video that was, huh? 300,000 points over 60 hours, I think, is what he and his friend played over.
Yeah, I think that's what it ended up being.
And they kind of just sort of had to duel it out at the end because they were not going to kill everything on the board.
Although they were surprisingly neck and neck. Like, they were
It's
pretty
like at that
close
scale,
still.
the game is super balanced.
Yeah.
Video games can be war games, but the only... Let's see. Video games can be war games, but the only way to win is to not play. Wow. Respectfully, I disagree because I love winning at war. Let's see. Andrew, I saw a documentary about war games. Can't believe we almost all died. Mark IV design.
Was that the one with... I'm blanking on his name. Ferris Bueller. Was he the one?
Matthew Broderick?
Matthew Broderick was
assume that's what he's
narrating that
referring to.
documentary.
It's like that documentary about D&D.
With Tom Hanks.
With Tom Hanks. I'm like, huh, okay. Mark IV design decisions scare me. The LGS support was poor for Mark III, and I'm unsure what the new addition will do for the scene. So supposedly they are specifically addressing the local game store stuff, supposedly.
Well, I think that even part of it is that there were so many models that
SKU bloat.
yeah, and so the game stores were just like, I don't know what to even carry, and so
Yeah.
there's a couple of issues with that, but them paring down their model line is supposedly supposed to help. We'll see.
Well, everything being more in group packs. I mean, GW is pretty brilliant. It's like, oh, here's a Space Marine unit. How many of those do you need? It's more than one. It's probably more than 2 and 3, and it's more than your field allowance, which is what you have in War Machine.
It's basically literally you can always have one more unit.
Yeah. And part of that comes down to how you outfit them, what guns and stuff are you putting on, which is a level of granularity I actually don't like.
Yeah.
Because I really like War Machine's set of like, here's the
Well,
card, this is what's on the model, always.
But
You
it's
always know what's on
also
them.
like how the game scales too,
Yeah.
right? Whereas with War Machine, it's like, well, I mean, how many units of gun mages can you even have on a table, right? And still play a reasonable game. Whereas, you can play a 300,000 point game apparently, but you can play 6,000 point game or stuff like that for fun at your game store, and you can put a dozen units of Space Marines on the table like pretty easily.
That's true. Fair point. Fair point. See, I firmly believe that the worst part of multiplayer games is that there are other people in them. I mean, that is true.
Your mileage may vary.
Exactly. It's like the best part and the worst part. Because I have met good friends through the online community. I probably have more friends that I've met online than I have met in real life. And so mileage may vary. But yeah, you do sift through a fair number of jerks in the meantime. Mark IV design decisions scare me. Yeah, let's see. Yep, I've only played video games with people I know. Don't like dealing with randoms.
I'm that way too.
I definitely go back and forth. Like with Dark Tide, I've just sort of accepted it as just part and parcel. I just want to get like my levels on, and like I'm trying to learn the game and not be terrible at it. So, And I don't know. I've been online long enough that,
Hard skin.
yeah, it's like it doesn't really affect me very much. So, and I didn't get water to paint. Oh, Mandragora, because I forgot I can't. This is the third time in as many weeks. First time end of November, days December 7th through 11th, and not today, 14th until who knows when. Ah, no water. Shale, my FLGS had the pre-order I put in for Kador, still waiting for my models. That I thought got pushed back. Like, I don't think anybody's getting them yet. At this point, I don't know if Mark IV is going to make it. I mean, time will tell. I will say that never underestimate the power of a large system. And, I mean, Privateers had 20 years of existing. And it's not to say it can't fail, but it's a lot harder for something that's that established to fail. So hopefully that's in their favor. Anyway.
So hopefully they'll work harder to try to keep it alive.
I wonder how many tried Warmer Hordes due to the War Machine PC game. Yeah, no, I don't think. I would be surprised if one did, honestly. Like, that was not a way to sell the tabletop. Let's see. Faction retirement killed MechWarrior Age of Destruction. It split the community and alienated veterans. It could easily kill War Machine Hordes. Maybe, but I mean, that was an argument for fantasy, right? I mean, with Warhammer Fantasy, when they're like, dead.
Well,
Here's Age of Sigmar in a horrible release.
That's kind of a different animal, though, because it's like they killed the game. They didn't do things that killed the game. They said, no, we're killing it. It's over, and we're replacing it with this new game.
You're saying GW did that? Yeah.
Whereas this is more like the company didn't want it to die. They just started retiring models, and so the community died. You know what I mean? And so it's a little different, I think.
Yeah. Like, I'm not even convinced there isn't a way to do that players accept. Because, I mean, I think Infinity retires factions and models and stuff, but people aren't pissed off about it in the same way.
Yeah, but it's like 10 dudes. You know what I mean? Like
That's true. It's not like as big an investment.
not
You're like,
like,
I have 200 Kador models. And another 100 that still need to get painted up. I probably have more than 200 Gator models, actually. Or rather, how many got turned off by the game? Yeah, I can see a lot of people just being like, it looks cool, but... Which sucks, because it did capture a lot of cool things in it. Like the way warjacks look, the size and scaling of warjacks, and like the idle animations of the warjacks. Like, honestly, if they just focused everything around the warjacks, that may have even been better.
Well, I mean, that was the original game, right?
Yeah.
You were a warcaster and you just had your warjacks and you guys just ran around.
Fundamentals, right? And it reminds me, I bought RDR2 on sale and have yet to even start the game. Steam gamers have issues too. Yeah, there's, oh gosh, like humble bundles when you're like, here's 40 games for $20. You're like, I'm never going to play this, but I got this other game, and I don't know, maybe we'll try it out. I've got tons of games that I have yet to try. Let's see, that's why I'm not seriously into war game. I love playing games, but my living space is lacking, so I can't really own much of any army on my own. Yeah, and I think that's the case for a lot of people. Even if you do have the space, you might not want to, or you might have cohabitation problems, let's say, with having that much stuff. So it's definitely like, there's trade-offs, I guess.
Well, I think that's when you get into like Kill Team or Malifaux or
Something small.
Infinity, just something where you have about a dozen guys and that's it.
But I mean, at the same time, a lot of people are just like into D&D and they have their couple of figures for their specific characters.
And some people are into D&D and have thousands of NPCs and pieces of terrain and buildings.
Those are DMs. They're different. Okay?
That's fair.
Paul, my main memory of War Machine Tactics was of the Khadorans you meet in Mission 1. It was voiced by Resident Evil 5 voice actor Chris Redfield. Oh, yeah. See, and I appreciate that they used, like, real voice actors. Like, I don't hate the whole celebrities being voice actors thing, but, like, I was a big fan of voice actors before, like, celebrities decided that that was a really cool thing to do. And so, like, I knew Jennifer Hale and, like, all the Simpsons characters and people who did a lot of the popular animes and video games, like, because there were so many of the same people who would do those voices. And see, I remember being super pissed about War Machine Tactics because when I backed the Kickstarter, the system requirements were well within my PC's limits, but by release it had gotten impossible to run. Ooh. No, that's no bueno. That's really bad. Yeah, you can't do that. It's like, have some optimized version down or do something. I don't know what happened with that. I really, like, I blame a lot of probably poor decisions, but I don't know that I would even lay that at the feet of, like, the game company. But it's like one of those things. War Machine, let me see, Mandragora. I dropped War Machine Tactics, sad to say. And I not only backed it, I advertised and actually made YouTube videos for it. It was just not optimized for computer gaming. The menu system was bad. It was very clunky. And it would be kind of weirdly glitchy where you'd want to move characters somewhere and I don't even think you could commit to it. I think once you clicked it, it would just go over there. And so if you misclicked something, you just had to deal with that. And you had to deal with your, like, one movement, one action thing. Yeah, it wasn't. It should have played more like just straight XCOM.
It should have played very fast, is my opinion. Although even for the computer gaming thing, I don't know if it's just a modern thing, like just sort of a new mindset, but I always think of it. So I've done computer animation for a long time, and back in the day, like model, like optimization. Was like a big deal.
Where you strip out the polygons?
Yeah, where you sit there and you try to, really optimize how small you can get a texture and how often you can repeat parts of it and, like minimize the number of polygons and stuff because because like computers were very, I don't know, they just couldn't run quite as much back in the day. And so people put a lot of work into that. But especially when I see a lot of the meshes for models for new games and stuff like that, it kind of blows my mind. It's like really does make me wonder, like you really couldn't have optimized that at all, like.
Well,
and it feels like they just don't anymore because there's so much raw power. But then they just sort of leave it there, and it makes it so that a lot of people can't play the game, And I think back to when Blizzard released Warcraft, originally. Like, I think one of the reasons it was so successful is because people could play it on a toaster. Like, the graphics were
As
so
the owner
easy.
of a toaster, I will argue that it was a little marginal there. But
And playable, though.
it was
But
playable.
it was playable.
It was playable. You had a lot of leeway with where you could set the graphics, although that had its own issues. I remember having the graphics
Yeah.
set too low where I couldn't see the portal to get into the cave as part of the elixir
yeah.
chain.
That's
And I'm like, where is the stupid thing? And the guys are like, you'll see it. It's super obvious. And I'm like, I don't see anything. And my graphics setting was too low. It just didn't show it at all. So it kind of sucked. So, you know, we all had different experiences with that.
But it seems now, like, instead of being able to set your graphics from, like, 1 to 10, it seems like now you can only set your graphics from 8 to 10. You know what I mean? Like, it really just seems like they don't optimize anything.
Deadlines have outpaced the need for optimization. So it's like, just get it out soon. DLC, as cool as it is, really opened the door to putting half-developed games out and we'll fix it later situations. So, yes, it's terrible. Most programming anymore is horribly sloppy because
Fair enough.
it's so much, like there's no expectation that it's going to last a long time. They're just like, on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. Why bother perfecting this because it's not going to last long enough anyway. Shale, every time I hear the name of that orc game, I hear Fire, Blood, and Steel, which is the title of a heavy metal song by the Brothers of Metal. There you go. To be fair, Deadpool and Wolverine Origins was a disaster, but that was at the request of, what was his name?
Tom Rothman.
Tom Rothman.
Yeah, that was Tom Rothman
Made that character.
removing Deadpool's
Mouth, yeah.
was Tom Rothman specifically. That was him stepping
Because
in
he
as a
did
producer.
not like the merc with the mouth.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So that was his call.
Yeah. I mean,
That's because people are stupid.
Well,
well,
so
they have
at
these
the end
ideas,
of-
right?
At the end of the first Deadpool movie, whenever, after the credits where Deadpool goes out and he's just like, what are you guys still doing here? And then at one point he goes, hi, Tom. That's him literally talking to that guy,
No.
like calling him out.
Yeah, and I mean, Hollywood's a whole other bag of dysfunction, but Andrew, to be fair, Deadpool, yeah. So Privateer Press should make more specialty games using the IP similar to Space Hulk, satisfy fans who want more of the universe, but still do their Mark IV stuff. Yeah, I mean, it would make sense to diversify, and you could do a lot of cool stuff again, especially since they have done a bit of a time leap, especially stylistically within the game, having stuff that looked like the older artwork, the really pretty cool stuff in a video game would be nice.
Well, they did do more board games. Like Privateer Press would do board games, but they never seemed to
Yeah.
be within the War Machine world, really.
Oh, well, Undercity was good. It just
Oh,
got
that's true.
panned because people didn't like the ugly tiles. And, like, that was the only thing, 'cause it was actually a really fun game.
Yeah, it was a really good game.
And then you had Company of Iron, which is in that world, but it...
Well, Company of Iron is
It was a
it's not a
quasi.
standalone. It's just, I mean, it's like
was.
Kill Team is to 40K.
yeah.
It's not like
or
a,
like Warhammer Underworld or something, but more like Kill Team.
yeah.
It suffered other problems, but it was a really cool concept. Andrew, if I recall correctly, War Machine Tactics needed better pathing for the camera. It was incredibly janky. Yeah, hate to go, but gotta go. All right, JP Got Rockets, appreciate you being here. We're probably gonna wrap up here in a few minutes anyway. Hi, hope everyone's doing great tonight. Did we get to the Rings of Power tonight? I thought we were talking about movies, or is it games? It's video games, and how they apply to tabletop games, and how they, I think, pretty much exclusively benefit tabletop games. They just have to be done, well enough, or at least often enough. And so we were just talking about, like, GW having just so many games in their IP that are video games, and how much that has done to elevate Games Workshop as far as just being a popular intellectual property, and how it would make sense for other tabletop games to follow suit, because it seems like they would only benefit from that. I mean, we were even talking about Bolt Action, and it's like, it's a World War II style game. There's lots of developers out there making World War II style games. Why not just go to one of those and say, how about you put our branding on this and like tweak a few things and warlord.
How about instead of what you were going to call it, just call it Bolt Action, the video game?
Well,
Like, we'll partner with you.
yeah, I mean, that would...
Like, you have to make literally 0 changes.
And I mean, that's a tabletop game that sort of gets vicarious benefit of all those World War II style games too. But you would focus it more by doing something like that. And then like Malifaux just has, it could do any old thing at once, and I think people will love it. And yeah, War Machine could still hugely benefit from that. Mac Attack, I am looking forward to Phantom Liberty DLC for Cyberpunk 2077. Now that the game is actually playable. Yeah, I remember hearing that had a really, really rough release. But it was so aesthetically strong that I think people were willing to kind of put up with it. And they fixed the problems relatively fast, probably within a month or so of release, not a couple of years. 3.5-inch floppy. Good luck finding a working floppy drive. I know. My dad never threw anything away.
about to
We
say, I
have
bet your dad
lots
has.
of working floppy drives. We have, was it 5 1/8? 5
5 1/4.
Quarter. The floppy drives. Pretty sure we still have those that run. I remember running DOS on that and playing, there was a little edutainment game called Number Munchers.
Ah!
Yeah.
I remember that.
Got to learn my multiplication table. I still like playing War Machine Tactics here and there. I should load it back up and give it a go. Like, I never actually finished their DLC. And I mean, again, the company was super nice and honestly really responsive. It's just, the game suffered a lot. I feel like there was probably too many cooks situation or something.
Yeah, there was a bug where you weren't able to beat it.
There was a mission where you had to save Signar troops, and the Signar AI was so stupid that all they would do is just run toward the Crix, like, models. They wouldn't run away from anything. They'd just run toward them. And you had to, like, make them live in order to beat the mission. So they'd die. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't have a way of tying you up or doing anything. I just have to watch in horror as you just kill yourself. It's really frustrating.
I thought there was another thing too, though, or like even after the game, like they kept trying to move, or there was something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember specific. I remember that other issue, but I don't know about the other ones. I used to love video games too, and I lost my virginity. Well, I enjoy both. I enjoy all worlds. Let's see. I still own a Sony USB floppy drive for Windows 10. Knows it's there when I plug it in, but no idea what it is. How funny. You can still buy 3.5-inch floppy drive? Really? That's cool. Let's see. I just finished 6 Signar City Guards for Requiem. Hey, nice, Thomas. Vermintide 2 is excellent. Still need to pick up Darktide. Vermintide 2 is a load of fun. I absolutely love that game. Hey, wait, are these Ultramarines I spot on the top of the bigger screen? Yes. Those are Ultramarines from the Warhammer 40K Imperium magazine. Evil and hilarious. Best comic. I started Warhammer a few years ago. Started with the Imperial Army. Now I have a medium Dork Angels army.
I like that better.
Dork Angels?
The dork angels, they fight against the derp angels.
Oh. J. Alex is requesting to see your ornaments and see how they're turning out. And finish up on that because it's already 8.
All right.
Yeah, it was
So every year I make an ornament for
Oh, sorry, J. Alex.
my nephew and then one for a family friend's child. So my nephew is big into dinosaurs. I can't really tell what it's going to do there, so we'll see if it comes up.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's a dinosaur with a Santa hat.
Yeah. To be fair, my nephew is big into, like, realistic-looking dinosaurs. My stepmom, who is the one who actually wants these and buys them from me, she's more into cartoon things. So I just appease her and have it be that, because the kid's not going to care. Let's be fair.
Dinosaur.
And then I had a Mickey Mouse one get ordered. And that was it. Just had to knock him out.
Indeed. What did I do?
I don't know what you did. I don't even know if you guys saw that.
You closed an important window, probably.
I hate this browser. The important thing is nothing's working now. All right. Well, anyway, I guess we'll call it here. Sorry, I can't read the rest of the chat. Because
Oh, that's weird. It's
something-
not bringing it up.
no, it just
That
isn't
is
gonna
kind of strange.
see anything now. That's cool. All right. Well, at least the technical difficulties waited till after the fact. So yeah, we'll appreciate you all joining us for tonight, and I guess we'll wrap it up here. And yeah, have a great evening. We'll see you hopefully in a couple of weeks, and we can prep for the new year. Maybe plan some
Yay.
conventions by then. See what we're all doing. So have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Happy painting, happy hobbying, and Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.
Bye.